Welcome to Loving Out Loud, how to improve communication, sustain sexual passion, and create lasting love relationships. My name is Paula Smith, and I'm your summit host. Loving Out Loud is about loving fiercely and showing up in a different way to create a new reality, one that allows you to access your deepest truths and desires. No matter where you are in the love and life cycle, Loving Out Loud is a prescription for awakening your heart, your mind, and your body to a deeper consciousness and a more authentic and intentional self-expression. Welcome to Loving Out Loud. My guest today is Dr. John Michael Gray. Dr. Gray is a relationship coach, workshop leader, and author. He specializes in somatic psychology, trauma, resolution, and somatic experiencing. Using training in brain science and attachment theory, Dr. Gray offers tools to help adults overcome reactive patterns and form a secure, happy, intimate bond. He's currently writing a new book, The 5-Minute Relationship Repair, where he integrates neurobiology and attachment theory in a way that helps couples engage in practices to build secure partnership and share in authentic, fulfilling intimacy. This is our recent conversation. So, John,
Hi.
hi, thank you for loving out loud with us today.
Ah,
I really appreciate you being on the summit.
oh, my pleasure. Thanks, Paula.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's just your work is amazing.
thank you.
And I remember speaking with you last year, very
hmm
briefly. So I feel blessed that you were able to join us on this summit.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yep. So first of all, you have a book coming out, The 5-Minute Relationship Repair.
Yeah, 5-minute relationship repair.
Right. So this implies, and I love this. This implies that there will be ruptures and
Yes.
disagreements and
Yeah.
arguments
Yeah.
in relationships, right?
Well, that so far that's what we found.
That's what we found, right?
Yeah.
And and the other implication of the title of your book, and I have read your book,
Mhm.
your upcoming book, that we don't have to go through the four horsemen
Ah,
before we get to the other side,
right. Exactly.
right?
Well, 5-minute relationship repair. I wanted to put the emphasis on repair.
Right,
They ask in real estate, what are the three things you need to know to succeed? And it's location, location, location. That
right,
sounds kind of funny.
right.
And it's true. In
Mm-hmm.
in relationship, I think it's repair, repair, repair.
Okay.
And 5-minute relationship repair, there's a few things this implies. First of all, it's all about repair.
Right,
We would love to be in a relationship where there's no upsets, no tiffs, no bumps on the road, no triggering.
right,
And we'd almost define our soulmate as someone who would never trigger us. They'd just be on the same page with us always.
right,
And
right,
I'd love that too. But in reality, um, all couples have differences, stylists, differences in personality, different needs at different times. There's a lot to negotiate, and a lot of times people accidentally step on each other's feet, not meaning to.
right,
It's like you're walking down the road of relationship together, and somebody gets a pebble in their shoe.
right,
And repair is being able to just kind of stop and shake that out,
right.
rather than thinking there should never be any pebbles.
Exactly, exactly. So there's
Yeah.
no such thing as happily ever after. In
Happily
the
ever after is
well, yeah,
that you're stopping and shaking every pebble out and
right,
continuing on
right,
with, happy feet.
right. Not in a mythical sense, but
No, not
yeah,
in the sense of
right,
bliss forever.
right, right.
Right.
So what's fascinating about your book, the beginning of the book, is you start off by talking about the brain's role in relationships. And
Right.
there's a lot of research on this topic. Now, can you just sort of share with us? Because I think it's important for couples to really understand this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of research in brain science, in neuroscience about how brain functioning affects relationship and how triggering actually works.
Right.
We could look at one aspect, for instance, memory, how memories are formed, how they're formed in long-term memory.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about why repair everything that comes along, which is what I'm recommending.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you hit a bump on the road, just stop and shake the pebble out
Mm-hmm.
together.
Right. Right.
If you don't, a lot of people would like say, let's just sweep it under the carpet and come back and we'll be calm and everything will be happy and time will
Mm-hmm.
take care of it. The
Mm-hmm.
problem there is because the brain will store in long-term memory every pebble, pretty soon after some number of months or years, it's like you're walking along with rocks in your shoes,
Right.
all
Right.
because nothing got repaired.
Right.
And then soon thereafter, eventually it feels like boulders, and then it seems like so much, and everybody gets so upset that then another part of the brain seems to be taking over more and more, this primitive, reactive survival brain. That
Mm-hmm.
literally has like a smoke alarm in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not our thinking brain, it's the
Right.
part of the brain that controls our body functions. And so it'll take our body into states of fight, flight, or freeze.
Mm-hmm.
This is where people are really flying off the handle over nothing. And they're wondering, why am I getting so upset over how the dishwasher ought to be loaded?
Right. Right.
And so that's another factor that starts kicking in.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And so you said something that's really important, that it seems to be something about the dishwasher,
Right,
but there are all of these pebbles underneath that
right.
are okay. John, you talk about using this pause button.
Oh, yeah,
Now,
yeah,
I've
yeah,
tried to work with couples with that,
yeah.
and it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
Absolutely.
You have a sort
It's
of a
more complicated than it looks.
exactly. You
Yeah.
have a specific methodology about how to use it. Can you share with our, and actually, what does it mean first?
Okay. Well, to pause
Mm-hmm.
literally means we could just hit a moment in the conversation and realize, let's pause,
Mm-hmm.
and then self-reflect what's going on here now. There's something besides talking about the dishwasher, and we could just repair it, whatever it is, and then move on and talk about the dishwasher again.
Right.
Pausing is supposed to be in our brain function to be able to slow down in a conversation.
Okay.
The and the frontal lobes, which house most of, you could call them the apps, the essential apps for a relationship, like empathy, being able to put
Mm-hmm.
yourself in the other person's position, being able to really understand the other and be understood.
Right.
All those really critical functions for a mutually happy relationship are there, as well as the ability to pause.
Right.
So
Right.
that's supposed to be built in.
Okay.
To artificially do it, like, oh, I feel my arousal going up, I'm getting a little activated and triggered here, let's pause.
Right.
The most elegant pause is just sit silently for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, catch your breath,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps figure out, does something need to be repaired right now on an emotional level that has nothing to do with the dishwasher?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someone's feelings are beginning to get hurt. And you
Right.
can just repair that and then move on easily at that
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, the most elegant use of pause. It's part of pause, calm, and repair. It's a kind of a three-step sequence.
Got it.
In the old style of couples work, a lot of people said, take a time out if you're getting too activated, if you're getting too triggered, take a time out. And it was even implied it was a good idea just to break apart, separate, do something else, and then come back.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that kind of can work for some people, but for others, it triggers a sense of abandonment
Right.
and incompletion. And while they're apart, It doesn't keep their brain from, winding up all these stories like, well, this other person doesn't care about me, or I can never do anything right. And they're self-triggering in that timeout. So when they get back together, it's even more of a big deal.
Yeah. I was very fascinated about the whole idea that you talked about with co-regulating
Mm-hmm.
and co-triggering.
Yeah, yeah. This is very interesting.
Yes.
Again, from
Yes.
neuroscience and biology, what two people can do for each other is interactively regulate their nervous systems
Mm-hmm.
through, and this is a technical term, co-regulation basically means hugging,
Right.
having
Mm-hmm.
supportive contact, eye
Mm-hmm.
contact, having a
Mm-hmm.
soothing tone of voice,
Mm-hmm.
saying very simple, friendly things.
Mm-hmm. I
And
find
that tends to downshift that
right.
primitive alarm system.
Yeah. I sort
You
of
know,
call it helping each other to get back into harmony.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And you could think of it as what would a mother do, an ideal mother, if her child, 12-month-old child, started crying, started freaking
Mm-hmm.
out?
Mm-hmm.
She instinctively would want to go over and hold the child and look in its eyes and say something soothing.
Right.
That's co-regulation. It's biological.
It's biological.
And just
Yeah.
because we grow up and become adults doesn't mean we need it any the less.
Right.
Ironically, though, when couples start getting into more and more problems and the pebbles turn into rocks in the shoes, co-regulation and hugging and physical contact quite often starts to drop away.
Yeah.
And that itself becomes more and more dysregulating. And
Right.
it's absolutely a mistake biologically. You ought to be co-calming even more.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. So, so this is good. So this is all sort of a step by step in sort of a cognitive understanding and emotional understanding of the road to repair.
Right.
So can we talk? I really love this. The stories that we tell ourselves
Oh, yeah.
when we are in the midst of conflict.
Yes. Yeah. It's really interesting. There's a bumper sticker I saw once that said, "Don't believe everything you think."
Right.
And those of us who've followed some kind of spiritual path often have questioned what
Mm-hmm.
the mind produces, the constructs and the stories. There's research that goes back to the 60s and 70s where they would be able to look at the part of the brain, the left brain, that constructs stories, that literally is telling us what something means.
Right.
What does that mean that that person just said that?
Right.
What does it mean that I feel this in this particular circumstance?
Mm-hmm.
They were able to project a movie into the right brain of subjects that was
Mm-hmm.
scary. And the left brain, they were able to do it in a way the left brain didn't know about the movie.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and then the subject would start acting nervous. The experimenter would say, "Why are you nervous?" Now, there was a research assistant sitting over at a desk in a neutral posture, filling out forms. The subject said, "I'm nervous because that research assistant over there looks creepy."
Ah.
Their brain came up with an answer to
Answer.
why am I nervous, and they believed it, and
And
they
they believe.
reported it as if it was true.
Right.
Now you just know if they ran into that research assistant in the hall or something, they would sort of start feeling uneasy. And this is actually what happens in relationship. People are carrying around stories about each other that the other person doesn't care, or nothing I ever
Mm-hmm.
do is enough.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing ever pleases her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't matter to him. And
Yeah.
these stories are self-tormenting. They're self-triggering, and
Right.
I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of couples,
Mm-hmm.
and when you get down to realizing what's under these stories are never true.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
even once have I
Right.
found where that's been true.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
seem so believable, and that creates
Right.
more and more upset.
Right.
So it's vital to kind of look at that part of what goes on in reactive cycles and get
Right.
underneath it to be
Right.
able to really express what are these deeper questions. People are
Mm-hmm.
always interacting maybe about the dishwasher or sex or money or the kids,
Mm-hmm.
but they're always asking deeper questions without knowing it. They're saying, "Are you here with me? Do you care about me?
Right.
Am I good enough for you?"
Right. Yeah. And that was actually my next question. We live in a society where, and I find this too with my couples, it's almost like if you really loved me, you would know what I need,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
So you talk about in your book, getting to the core needs,
Right.
what's really going on underneath. That requires a sense of vulnerability. Now,
Yes.
I see, and I'm sure in your many years of practice and all the many couples you've worked with, that that's sometimes not something that readily happens, right?
It doesn't readily happen at all. I
Okay.
find that part of the mystery of the unfolding of happiness with a couple that has been in like suffering mode for a long time is they are amazed to understand what's under it all.
Right. Yeah.
Simple needs
Simple
they
needs.
just didn't even imagine were true.
Yeah.
And once they realize it, once say the woman who gets critical and her mate just withdraws, he
Mm-hmm.
looks like from the outside he just doesn't care. He's got this big shield up.
Yeah.
But once it's revealed that he actually is suffering inside with a sense of failure, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why he's withdrawing, that it actually he has sad feelings in there.
Mm-hmm.
Usually she is astonished, like, oh my
Right.
God.
Yeah.
And she wants to repair that right there. And
Right.
if they had known that all along, of course,
Yeah.
this would never have built up.
Right. Right.
It's
So
very beautiful to see that opening. It's a wonderful moment.
it's very beautiful,
Yeah.
and I've actually had the opposite reaction, like with younger couples, when the husband or boyfriend has become vulnerable. It's almost a little shocking to them because
Yes.
they're not used to seeing, you
Well,
know.
absolutely. That
Yeah.
let's face it, as a society, we're allergic to vulnerability. You know, we were raised as children to tough it out, or don't cry,
Mm-hmm.
and so we don't really know this deeper language of the heart, this deeper language of emotional bonding,
Right.
and so that leaves so much room for people to begin to question and doubt
Mm-hmm.
and have these negative stories, which are very easy to remedy if you're
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable. That is, if you can actually know what they are and
Right.
say them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's okay, right, to have needs. It's okay to be
Well,
vulnerable.
we have needs. I mean,
We
just
have
because
well to
yeah,
express
just
them.
because we're adults doesn't mean we don't have attachment needs.
Right.
And that's the deal. I mean,
That's
we
the
all have
deal.
attachment needs. These needs make us feel vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what do you do with vulnerability is the question. If you weren't raised in an atmosphere where that was supported,
Right.
then what you're going to do instead of when you feel vulnerable, going close to your partner and telling them what's really up with you, you're going to posture, you're going to maybe push people away, you're going to turn away, you're going to do something else,
Right.
and that's going to throw the wrong signal to your partner.
Right. Right.
And so everybody will be misinterpreting everybody else in
Yeah.
that kind of scenario.
Yeah. Great. Um, my last thought, and perhaps I can formulate this into a question. You use some very beautiful language
Mm.
in your repair process.
Yeah.
For example, something like, there's this process when this happens, I felt this,
Hmm.
and then I behaved this way, and then I
Hmm.
thought this. Can you talk about that and how, because it seems immensely important and healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, in the book and in my work, I help couples go down into that core level of what's really going on. So instead of staying on the surface, when say you have a date and your partner arrives late, and
Mm-hmm.
you get triggered by that, and so on the surface you might make some blaming statement, some critical remark. All you ever care about is work, but under it is a more tender thing in your heart. Under
Mm-hmm.
that anger or frustration, there's actually hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to express well, I just need to know I matter to you
Right.
directly.
Right.
Now, that kind of vulnerability takes a lot of courage to say
Right.
something like a button in me is getting triggered, that I'm not important to you, that I come last.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just reassure me that I matter to you? That a partner could do. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
of course I matter. You matter to me. Oh my God, I didn't realize that's what this means to you.
Right. Right. And
How
a
could
lot
I
of
ever
times,
hear that under all the critical remarks? I
right.
thought over on this side I was just a failure.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
But if I understand what it is really going on in you because you're willing to say that, then that gives me a key to know you
Mm-hmm.
and to know
Mm-hmm.
what to repair and actually to become more sensitive. Oh, wow.
Right.
I'm so meaningful to you
Right.
that me being on time makes your day. Well, I like making you happy, of course. I don't want to feel like a failure over here. I
Right.
can feel like a success if I know what this is really about.
Right. Right.
So on that vulnerable level, everybody can actually start feeling really good about each other and themselves.
Right. And I would think that that makes communication a lot more easier. I
Oh, for
imagine
sure.
I imagine that the communication becomes difficult when you're trying to create language when you're triggered.
Oh, yeah.
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 And then that's
Yeah.
quite often why it's a good idea to pause just a little while,
Right.
because the primitive part of the brain doesn't have any of this ability.
Ah, that's the
The,
key.
with
That's
a
it.
survival part of the brain operates
Wow.
out of kill or be killed,
Kill or be
basically.
killed. Right.
That's what it is. It doesn't do
Right.
empathy, it doesn't do
Wow.
understanding, and it doesn't do vulnerability. You're
Wow.
not gonna, why would that survival part of the brain have vulnerability or empathy? I mean,
Right.
oh, here comes that saber-toothed tiger. I bet it's hungry again.
Right.
No, we're just going to kill the thing. And
Right.
then, once everything's safe, then we can talk about it.
Wow. John, this is so important. This is
Yeah,
so
it is.
amazing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it
so
is.
amazing. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I know, I know.
Yeah, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
This is I mean, I feel so privileged, sort of having a first copy, I guess. It's not even in print yet. So I really
Yeah.
feel privileged and grateful. Um, I'm pretty sure our viewing audience will want to follow your work, and can you let us know when the book is coming out?
It's coming out first of the year,
Okay,
2015.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
And so, how might we contact you? And can you say a little bit about your free gift?
Oh, okay. So my website is soulmateoracle.com,
Mm-hmm.
and there are many free things on there already,
Okay.
including a deck of oracle cards
Oh, wow.
called
Okay.
the Soulmate Oracle. That's why
Okay.
the site was built, was
Okay.
to give away these cards, and it's like a little consultation you can have,
Oh.
kind of like a little reading. It's meant to kind of mimic tarot cards, but you could also think of them as flashcards.
Okay.
So you can go on the site and play with these cards and ask a question and get a free reading.
Oh, great.
In addition, I want to offer an ebook that starts to give some relationship tools
Mm-hmm.
for people to use in their relationships
Right.
around being able to talk more clearly, like we've just been discussing,
Right.
and be able to do some repair with each other.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: all you need to know is two or three things about your partner.
Mm-hmm.
When you start getting vulnerable like this and figuring out what's really going on, all you need to know is two or three things to repair things and keep moving forward in this kind of more happy state.
Yeah. Right. I
And
mean,
repair
that's
is easy. It only takes 5 minutes if you know what you're doing.
5 minutes and
Yeah,
true loving out loud, isn't it?
yeah,
True.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dr. John Gray, thank you so much
Oh, you're welcome, Paul.
for being on the summit. Your work is so important. Was there any final thoughts that you wanted to perhaps share with couples?
Yeah, I want to let you know that you're very important to your partner's brain. You're more significant than anyone else in the world, and you have a lot of power to rewire your partner's brain to be more loving and more vulnerable and open. And it
Mm-hmm.
just requires showing them that you're willing to do that too, and
Right.
discovering that journey together as
Right.
kind of co-adventures.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So, yeah, watch out for the book, The
thanks.
5 Minute Relationship Repair, coming out in January.
Yeah.
Dr. John Gray, thank you so much for being on Loving Out Loud. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
Paula.
it. Yeah.
My pleasure.